The Jedi Code is well known across the galaxy. Peace, knowledge, serenity, harmony. But what truly governs the Sith? Not just peace is a lie, or through victory, my chains are broken. No, there are deeper, darker rules that every Sith Lord understands but never speaks aloud. Rules that have shaped the galaxy far more than the Jedi would ever admit. Rules that, if broken, mean certain death. Today, we're uncovering the unwritten code that has guided the Sith for millennia, and why some of the most powerful Sith Lords in history chose to break these rules and paid the ultimate price. Before we dive into the unwritten rules, we need to understand why they exist at all. The Sith Order began not as the shadowy counterpart to the Jedi, but as exiles, dark Jedi who refused to follow the light side teachings. When these exiles arrived on Korriban roughly 7,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, they encountered the native Sith species, a red-skinned, humanoid race strong in the dark side. The exiles subjugated them, eventually interbreeding and creating what we now know as the Sith Order. The early Sith society was chaotic, with constant power struggles. Ajunta Pal, the first Dark Lord of the Sith, realized that without some form of structure, the Sith would destroy themselves before they could challenge the Jedi. Unlike the Jedi's structured system, early Sith society operated through strength and dominance. The strongest ruled, and the weak perished. This brutal meritocracy created a culture where formal rules were seen as restrictions to be broken. Yet paradoxically, certain principles emerged naturally, unspoken understandings that guided Sith behavior. Over thousands of years, through countless wars, extinctions and rebirths, these unspoken principles evolved. Each generation of Sith refined them through blood and betrayal. What began as survival tactics eventually crystallized into the unwritten rules that would define Sith philosophy. These rules were never recorded in any official Sith texts. You won't find them in holocrons or ancient manuscripts. They exist in the spaces between words, in the actions of Sith Lords throughout history, in the pattern of their successes and failures. To understand these rules is to understand the dark side itself, not as the Jedi describe it, but as the Sith experience it. A path of freedom through power, of salvation through passion, of transcendence through conflict. The first unwritten rule of the Sith is perhaps the most fundamental. Knowledge is power, but secrets are survival. While the Jedi openly share their teachings, the Sith understand that knowledge itself is currency. It must be hoarded, protected, and dispensed strategically. Every Sith Master throughout history has revealed knowledge to their apprentice, like a carefully measured dose. Enough to make them stronger, never enough to make them a threat. Consider how Palpatine shared knowledge with Anakin. He revealed the story of Darth Plagueis, a tale of manipulating midi-chlorians to create life and prevent death. This wasn't just a story, it was calculated bait, revealing just enough to tantalize, while withholding the actual techniques. Darth Bane, who established the rule of two after the Brotherhood of Darkness nearly destroyed the Sith, understood this principle profoundly. He spent years accumulating lost Sith knowledge, scouring the galaxy for artifacts and teachings. But he never shared everything with his apprentice, Darth Zana. Bane kept the most dangerous teachings hidden, techniques for transferring his essence to another body, and rituals to enhance his connection to the dark side. These weren't just tools, they were insurance against betrayal. Even Palpatine, perhaps the most successful Sith Lord in history, maintained extensive private archives. Vaults of knowledge scattered across the galaxy, accessible only to him. Knowledge of Sith alchemy, ancient weapons, Force techniques long forgotten. He shared tactical knowledge with Vader, lightsaber combat, basic Force techniques. But the deepest secrets remained his alone. This rule extends beyond master and apprentice. Throughout Sith history, Lords would deliberately destroy knowledge rather than risk it falling into the wrong hands. Entire libraries burned, holocrons shattered, artifacts buried on forgotten worlds. The pattern repeats across millennia, knowledge gathered, hoarded, and often lost. The tragic consequence of this rule is that the Sith have repeatedly lost vital knowledge. The secret to creating force storms, the ability to preserve consciousness after death, the technique for severing another's connection to the Force. All discovered and lost multiple times throughout Sith history. But what if this knowledge wasn't truly lost? What if the greatest Sith secret is the location of a complete repository of dark side knowledge, hidden so well that even other Sith cannot find it? A legacy waiting for the one Sith Lord wise enough to break this first unwritten rule. The second unwritten rule contradicts the Sith's reputation for aggression, patience before power. The dark side fuels itself on passion, anger, hatred, fear. These emotions demand immediate release, immediate action. Young Sith often mistake this urgency for strength. They believe power is demonstrated through constant action, through visible displays of force. Darth Maul embodied this impatience. Raised from childhood to be a weapon of vengeance, he burned with hatred for the Jedi. He craved combat, craved the opportunity to reveal himself and the Sith to their ancient enemies. Contrast this with his master, Darth Sidious. Palpatine's grand plan unfolded over decades. From senator to chancellor to emperor, each step was calculated, each move patient. He manipulated the Trade Federation, engineered the Clone Wars, and corrupted Anakin Skywalker, all while the Jedi remained blind to his true identity. The true power of patience reveals itself in how Sidious cultivated relationships decades before they would bear fruit. He identified Anakin Skywalker as a potential apprentice when the boy was only 9 years old. For the next 13 years, he carefully positioned himself as a mentor and friend, never rushing the corruption process. Vader, by contrast, often broke this rule. His impatience, his immediate displays of power through force-choking Imperial officers, ultimately undermined his effectiveness. Vader's inability to wait, to endure, to plan beyond immediate gratification prevented him from ever truly challenging his master. Consider Darth Tenebrous, who spent over a century developing his grand plan. Or Darth Plagueis, who dedicated decades to mastering the manipulation of midi-chlorians. Their patience allowed them to achieve what more impulsive Sith could not: breakthroughs in understanding and controlling the Force itself. The most patient Sith Lords understood that true power isn't measured in light years, but in generations. They planted seeds they would never see grow, set events in motion that would unfold centuries after their deaths. This is the patience of the dark side. Not the passive waiting of the Jedi, but active, calculating endurance. The greatest Sith achievements didn't come from raw power, but from patience. The ability to wait decades, even centuries, for plans to unfold, to see beyond the immediate horizon of one's own lifetime, to understand that the dark side rewards those who can channel passion into patient purpose. The third unwritten rule is crucial: never show your true self. While the Jedi proudly display their identity, wearing distinctive robes and carrying visible lightsabers, the Sith understand that anonymity is power. Throughout history, the most successful Sith operated in plain sight, hidden behind carefully constructed personas. Count Dooku presented himself as a principled former Jedi concerned about Republic corruption. His public identity was that of a political idealist, a reformer seeking to create a more just system. Few suspected his true identity as Darth Tyrannus, apprentice to Darth Sidious. Palpatine maintained his facade even in private moments. Consider his interactions with Anakin Skywalker. Always presenting himself as a caring mentor, a fatherly figure concerned with Anakin's well-being. Each word, each gesture was calculated to build trust while concealing his true nature. Darth Zana, Bane's apprentice, weaponized her appearance of innocence, young, beautiful, seemingly vulnerable. She manipulated others through their underestimation of her. Behind this mask of innocence lurked one of the most skilled practitioners of Sith sorcery. This deception extended beyond mere appearance. Successful Sith Lords created entire false histories, networks of associates who knew nothing of their true nature, even physical spaces that revealed nothing of their connection to the dark side. The rule applies on multiple levels. There's the public deception, hiding one's identity as a Sith, but there's also a deeper deception, hiding one's true motivations even from other Sith. Darth Sidious never revealed his complete plans to Dooku or Maul. Darth Bane never fully trusted Xana with his ultimate goals. This constant deception creates a particular kind of pressure. Maintaining a false self requires immense mental discipline and emotional control. The dark side feeds on raw emotion, yet the successful Sith must contain and channel that emotion, revealing it only in carefully controlled circumstances. Some Sith develop such profound skill in deception that they create multiple layers of false identity. Imagine an opponent who believes they've discovered your true nature, only to realize later that what they found was merely another deception, another mask concealing an even darker truth. The most dangerous Sith are those you'd never suspect. While the Jedi reveal their identities openly, the Sith understand that true power lies in being underestimated, overlooked, or misunderstood. In the shadows cast by others' assumptions, the Sith find freedom to pursue their true ambitions. The fourth unwritten rule is perhaps the cruelest: cultivate weakness in others. The Jedi seek to help others overcome weakness. The Sith, recognizing that weakness is a pathway to control, deliberately cultivate it. This isn't simple exploitation. It's active gardening, carefully nurturing specific vulnerabilities until they blossom into dependence or destruction. Palpatine didn't just exploit Anakin's existing fears, he carefully nurtured them. He encouraged Anakin's distrust of the Jedi Council, validated his resentment at being undervalued, and amplified his fear of losing Padme. Each conversation was a careful application of fertilizer to the seeds of weakness already present. Darth Trier, also known as Kreia, elevated this approach to an art form. She deliberately fostered dependency in her followers, creating psychological bonds that made them feel both special and incomplete without her guidance. By making herself the source of both pain and comfort, she established control that transcended physical power. On a larger scale, the Sith have always worked to strengthen institutional weaknesses in their enemies. Consider how Palpatine manipulated the Jedi Order itself, encouraging their political entanglements, exploiting their dogmatic adherence to tradition, widening the gap between their principles and their actions during the Clone Wars. This principle extends beyond individuals to entire systems. The Sith don't just exploit corruption in the Republic, they actively encourage it, knowing that a system weakened from within is easier to topple. Each bribe, each compromise, each moral exception gradually erodes the foundation until collapse becomes inevitable. Even Emperor Palpatine's final plan followed this rule. By forcing Luke to watch his friends die and his father submit, he cultivated rage and helplessness, emotions that could drive Luke to the dark side. He wasn't just testing Luke, he was actively creating the conditions most likely to break him. This rule explains why the Sith often target children or young adults for corruption. Their identities are still forming, their weaknesses more easily identified and enhanced. Palpatine recognized Anakin's attachment to his mother as a weakness to be exploited years before it became relevant. The most insidious application of this rule is the Sith's long-term effort to cultivate weakness in the Force itself. By encouraging imbalance, by pushing Force users toward extremes of light or dark, they create instability that can be exploited. The periods of greatest Sith success have always followed eras of Jedi dogmatism or moral compromise. This rule reveals the fundamental difference between Jedi and Sith approaches to power. The Jedi believe power should serve others. The Sith understand that others can be shaped to serve power. By carefully cultivating specific weaknesses, they create the conditions for their own success. The fifth unwritten rule is perhaps the most important. Anticipate betrayal. Unlike the Jedi, who form bonds of trust and loyalty, the Sith understand that every relationship carries the seed of its own destruction. The master will eventually be overthrown. The apprentice will eventually be replaced. The ally will eventually be sacrificed. This isn't pessimism. It's realism about the nature of power. Remember when Palpatine ordered Anakin to kill Count Dooku? This wasn't a spontaneous decision. It was this rule in action. Dooku had served his purpose. His betrayal was inevitable, so Palpatine struck first, using the situation to simultaneously eliminate an expendable apprentice and corrupt his chosen replacement. After Maul's defeat by Obi-Wan Kenobi, Palpatine simply abandoned him, already focused on finding a new apprentice. This wasn't callousness. It was the anticipation of betrayal that would have eventually come. In the Sith worldview, Maul's failure justified and necessitated his replacement. Even Vader, supposedly loyal to Palpatine, continuously contemplated overthrowing him. He offered this path to Luke. Join me, and together we can rule the galaxy as father and son. This wasn't rebellion. It was the natural expression of Sith philosophy. Power takes what power can hold. This rule creates a unique psychology among the Sith. They must simultaneously work closely with individuals they know will eventually betray them. This requires compartmentalization, strategic thinking, and emotional discipline beyond what most Force users can maintain. Darth Bane knew his apprentice would eventually challenge him. He didn't fight to prevent this betrayal. He prepared for it, ensuring Xana would only succeed if truly worthy. In their final confrontation, Bane fought with everything he had, not from fear of death, but from commitment to the principle that only the strongest should survive. This constant anticipation of betrayal shapes every aspect of Sith behavior. Their fortresses contain hidden escape routes and traps. Their plans include contingencies for allies turning against them. Their training emphasizes self-reliance above all. Even their meditation techniques include awareness of potential threats. The most successful Sith Lords turn betrayal itself into a tool. They create situations where expected betrayal serves their larger goals. Palpatine anticipated Vader would eventually turn against him. What we don't know is whether Vader's final betrayal was truly a surprise or the culmination of a plan decades in the making. Perhaps the most profound example is Palpatine's relationship with Vader. For decades they worked together, yet both knew betrayal was inevitable. When it came, with Vader throwing Palpatine down the Death Star shaft, it wasn't a surprise. It was the fulfillment of this unwritten rule. This rule doesn't mean Sith don't form attachments. They do, but unlike the Jedi, who reject attachment, the Sith embrace it while acknowledging its temporary nature. Everything ends. Everyone betrays. Power alone endures. The sixth unwritten rule separates the truly great Sith from the merely powerful. Transcend the physical. The Jedi believe in maintaining physical purity, treating their bodies as temples of the Force. The Sith understand that the body is merely a vessel, a temporary container for consciousness and power. If that vessel can be improved, modified, or even replaced, so be it. Throughout Sith history, Lords have modified their bodies through alchemy, cybernetics, and Force techniques. Darth Sion held his decaying body together through hatred alone. Darth Vader became more machine than man. Darth Plagueis experimented with extending his natural lifespan. The ultimate expression of this rule is the technique of essence transfer, moving one's consciousness from a dying or weakened body to a stronger vessel. Darth Bane attempted this. Emperor Palpatine perfected it, transferring his consciousness to a clone body after Vader's betrayal. This transcendence extends beyond the body to physical location. The most powerful Sith developed techniques to extend their influence across vast distances. Darth Nihilus could drain life from entire planets. Palpatine could communicate with Vader across the galaxy. some ancient Sith could trap consciousness outside normal space-time. For the greatest Sith Lords, physical death became merely an inconvenience. Their consciousness continued, either in new bodies or in artifacts designed to preserve their essence. The ancient Lord Andedu maintained consciousness in his holocron for millennia, waiting for a worthy vessel to possess. While Jedi seek to become one with the Force after death, maintaining individual consciousness as Force ghosts, the Sith seek to dominate death itself. They refuse to surrender their individuality, their ambition, their power, even when their physical form fails. This rule reveals perhaps the deepest truth about the Sith philosophy, that physical reality itself is seen as a limitation to be overcome. The dark side offers freedom from all constraints, even those imposed by nature. Death, distance, time, all become obstacles to be conquered rather than natural laws to be respected. The most dangerous Sith are not those with the most physical power, but those who have transcended physical limitations entirely. They exist beyond normal understanding, beyond normal detection, beyond normal defeat. They are not merely in the shadows, they have become the shadow itself. These 6 unwritten rules guided the Sith for millennia. But what happens when a Sith Lord deliberately breaks them? Darth Krayt rejected the rule of 2 and established the rule of 1. Darth Gravid tried to incorporate Jedi teachings into Sith philosophy. Darth Vectivus maintained his moral code despite embracing the dark side. Each broke fundamental Sith principles, and each paid a price, but also gained unexpected power. These rule breakers were considered heretics by traditional Sith. Yet some achieved powers that even the most orthodox Sith never imagined. Darth Plagueis's experiments with midichlorians violated several unwritten rules, yet brought him closer to understanding life itself than any Sith before him. But there's another side to this story. A hidden tradition within the Sith Order itself. A secret philosophy that embraces breaking these unwritten rules as the ultimate expression of Sith freedom. After all, isn't the essence of the dark side to break chains, to reject limitations, to forge one's own path? This hidden tradition might explain why the Sith continued to survive despite repeated extinction events. It might reveal why certain Sith artifacts remain undiscovered, and it might expose the true nature of the dark side itself. Not as the corrupting influence the Jedi describe, but as the ultimate path to individual sovereignty. Consider the possibility that these 6 unwritten rules aren't the true Sith philosophy at all, but merely training wheels. Principles for apprentices who haven't yet grasped the deeper truth. Perhaps the greatest Sith secret is that all rules must eventually be broken. These Sith rules shaped galactic history through chaos and passion. But what if the galaxy had fallen to a different kind of mastermind? One who used neither lightsaber nor force powers, yet possessed an understanding of control that would impress even the greatest Sith Lords. Next time, we'll explore a question that challenges everything we know about power in the Star Wars galaxy. What if Thrawn became Emperor? How would his analytical mind and strategic brilliance reshape the Empire? Would his calculated rule bring the order that Palpatine promised but never delivered? Or would the absence of the Force's guidance reveal the limitations of even the most brilliant military mind? Because sometimes the most fascinating question isn't about the power of the Force or the wisdom of the Jedi. It's about what happens when pure intellect and calculated strategy replace passion and mysticism at the helm of the galaxy. If you've enjoyed this journey through an alternate Star Wars timeline, there are more untold stories waiting to be discovered. Join our growing community of Star Wars enthusiasts who believe in exploring these what-if moments that could have changed the galaxy far, far away. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and activate notifications to catch our next alternative Star Wars story. Each tale offers a new perspective on the characters we love and the choices that define them. Remember to share your thoughts in the comments below. What other pivotal moments in the Star Wars saga would you like to see explored differently? Your ideas might inspire our next adventure. May the Force be with you, always.